Lovely. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Exhibition Budgerigar Forum live interview. This is the fifth in the series that we've been running. And tonight I'm really pleased to be able to introduce Maarten Heylen to you from Belgium, hugely successful fancier from the continent. This interview, as per the other ones, is being streamed live on Facebook and also YouTube. So if you're not watching live, then I assume now you're watching on record. So welcome, Maarten. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Excellent. A bit hot, sweaty, but yeah, no, very good. Enjoying the weather. How's the weather over there?
Yeah, too hot for me. It's 35 degrees also in Belgium at the moment, and
oh my God,
we are hiding inside at the moment. So it's
oh my goodness.
Also at night we have 24 still at night, so it's hard to sleep and try to cool the house down. So it's it's too much for
me. I think the worst bit is trying to get to sleep at night. You're quite right. The day I can just about deal with, but trying to sleep seems to be tricky, particularly with my youngsters as well.
The only place where it's good is in the breeding room. It's in the basement, so there it's 22 degrees. So I'm hiding there most of the time.
Oh, I bet you are. I bet it's lovely down there. Yeah. Fantastic. So, how's all the COVID-19 restrictions been for you guys? Has it been? We get a bit across the news, but how's it affected you over there?
Yeah, it was quite, how should I say, serious in Belgium. Also, we have about nearly 10,000 people who died due to COVID-19. So we are 11 million in Belgium. So it has affected us severely also. And also, a lot of things are cancelled. There won't be any shows. There won't be any meetings this year in Belgium. And we will, you can see also breeder visits and so on. It's a lot less than it was before, definitely. So, and further to that, we still see that it's not over. It's still going up again at the moment in Belgium. So we have to be very careful and keep within a bubble of 5 at the moment. So it's it will stay for the rest of the year, I think, until they have developed a vaccine that's approved.
Well, hopefully we'll stick it out to Christmas, and then after that it will get better. But yeah, it's worrying when the numbers are spiking again, I must admit. So I wish you guys well over there. It's do stay safe. So as I say, I've got so much to ask you. I'm the kind of person who's always got loads of questions. I did listen to you at the BS Club show a couple of years ago, and I was fascinated by everything you had to say. But as I say, even then, I think we ran out of time, and I wasn't even able to have time to put my hand up to ask any questions then. So for me, this is quite a nice second bite of the cherry. So tell us about the hobby in Belgium, for those who don't know. How, presumably you've got one big Budgerigar society, one sort of overarching main society?
It's not completely true. We have, until 5 years ago, we had 3 Budgerigar societies in Belgium. So now there are still 2. We have the Belgian Budgerigar Society, BGC, where I'm also in the board, and I'm the president of a local division, let's say. And we have the VGC, which is actually like part of the Dutch club at the moment. So it's a bit, it has grown like this historically, and I'm still thinking that we have to evolve again to one big club. It's the hobby is not going upwards in Belgium either. I think we see our members decreasing every year also. However, it's stable for a while already now. To give you an idea, we have about 150 members in Belgium of the Budgerigar Society. It's, of course, if you compare that to the UK, it's only a small hobby. But I think overall, the people that are breeding budgies, they are, how should I say, really motivated and also breeding good birds. I think there are really good birds around in Belgium at the moment also. So it's a small group of people, and yeah, most of us get on well with each other, so that's also important. And also the club is working fine. We have a good board and a very nice magazine that William Dirks is making. So I think that's really quality magazine for a small club as we are. So yeah, it's yeah, it's a nice club. Of course, we want to increase our members, but it's not easy to find young people that are motivated and that really want to commit to spend time with their birds. And also, yeah, it's not an easy hobby to start with. I think everybody knows that.
Absolutely. I think the problems you've just described, we've got the same in the UK, and I imagine around the world. That's as I say, this is similar. So did you have kind of regional clubs within Belgium as well? So you've got the main two. Are there area ones? How does that work?
So we have one overall, the National Society, and then besides that we have three regional parts of the club. So we have one region is Brabant and Limburg. That is the one that I'm the president of. Then we have the club from the French-speaking part of Belgium, that's Wallonia. And then we have one part of Flanders that's more near the coast and so on. So, and that's the Flanders region. And those three, they are together BGC.
Fine, okay. And whereabouts are you based, Maarten, in Belgium? Where's your base?
Yeah, it's the center of Belgium. So the center, Brussels, and from Brussels to the Dutch border.
Right, okay. And you're in partnership, are you? You've got, I understand there's three of you in your partnership, is that right?
Correct, yeah. I am in partnership with my father already since the beginning. We started breeding in '97. So, and then since 2013, Mario Waarzegers also joined the partnership, and that formed the HHW1 partnership, which means Heylen from me and my father, and Waarzegers from Mario. So that's for nearly 7 years now.
Fantastic.
So it's more than 7 years already. Yeah.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah.
When you're having fun. So, tell us about your individual bird rooms. Are they all very similar? I think one's is. Am I right in thinking one's above ground, two are below? Is that right?
Yeah, correct. That's Mario's and mine are in the basement. And my father's is on the ground floor. He has built his bird room in his garage actually. So my father's bird room. Yeah, my father lives on the countryside. He lives in the middle of the woods. Very nice air and very good breeding room. Also natural light. On the other hand, the advantage of breeding in the basement, you can see it right now with weather that's outside at the moment. We have a 22, 23 maximum, and it's not going up, so it stays very, very cool for the birds and also for me. The thing is, we are, I call it a real partnership. It means we are not three people all breeding their birds and just showing together, but we are actually, bringing the birds around. It means we only breed at two places at the same time. Most of the time, I'm doing the pairings, the different locations. Always one locations remain completely empty so that we can clean out that bird room, make it disinfect it actually, and the other two are working at that moment. And then next year or even within the year, sometimes we move the birds around. All depends how it's going and how many birds we have and so on.
The different
So, but never breeding with three bird rooms at the same time. Birds are just moving from one place to another, and actually I am making the pairings in the different locations.
That's fascinating. So for instance, if your father stops breeding, does he doesn't keep any birds? He just moves them to the other two bird rooms. Is that right?
Yeah.
Lots.
If he stops, and the plan is to start at my place afterwards. I start moving the birds to my place, and then they start. Of course, the setup is all the same. So we have the same breeding cages on the three different locations, but they still have to adapt a little bit to the environment. So, but once we know where the birds will go, we move them in the flights in the other location, and at the end, one place is always empty.
Does that keep people's enjoyment for the hobby when they're not overworked with the birds? Is that the reason for doing it, or?
Yeah, we don't want our breeding rooms to be overcrowded, and also it's important to give your breeding room some rest. Perhaps it's strange if you hear it, but I think it's very important. French mold is coming when there are too many birds, when there is stress in the breeding room, and you only get that when you have too many birds. So we have the ability to move birds around, and we have also the ability to relieve stress from one of the breeding rooms at a certain moment in time for 2 months, 3 months, whatever it's needed.
Excellent. And do you guys have outdoor flights? I mean, obviously I assume you don't have an outdoor flight,
No.
or your partner. What about your dad? Does he?
No, he doesn't have outdoor flights either. It's all inside. However, at my father's place, we have natural light coming in, and we can open the windows, of course, there. On the other side, on Mario's and my place, we have big air extractors that are changing the air over the hour completely in the breeding room. So it's always air quality is one very important thing in our breeding.
And you said you guys have. Sorry, you said you guys have all got the same breeding cages. I know you. Is that right? You've all got your. I like their. What would you call them? A plastic crate with a. I mean, they're brilliant, really. You've all got the same.
I had, we had Österreicher cages before, and they are super. They are perhaps the best that you can find on the market. But there was one thing that I had a little problem with, was like the aluminium. It's all the aluminium small, how should I say, frames that are, and you have some space in between where you can have some mites and so on. So I was looking at that moment in time, I was looking at something different. And as I'm working in logistics, actually, I found a logistics crate. Now that crate was in dark gray, so that was not so interesting, but I asked the company if it was possible to put it in like a sort of transparent color, and that was possible. And so I developed actually that breeding cage over the years. So it's for me, it works well. I just can pull one cage out if it's dirty or so on, and I can just put in another one. I don't really need the drawers or anything in the cage.
Outstanding. And are they like Ostringer cage fronts that you used, or?
Yeah, they're the same. They come from the same guy that makes them for Ostringer, actually. So they are stainless steel. You can put them in the water, and actually they will never, how should I say, they will never,
they won't rust or corrode.
They will never rust or anything. So that's for a lifetime. They're not cheap. They're quite expensive, actually. But you will have them for the rest of your life.
Well, that's then it's a good investment if you get that long out of them. I mean, it is clever. I think I agree. A lot of us, where we've got cages that are built in, if you can remove a cage and just take it outside and wash it, it makes such a difference than when they're built in a block.
Yeah, and as they are transparent, that gives us also the opportunity to bring some LED light on top of them, which shines through. It's not too hard, but it shines through the cage actually, and it gives light, the same amount of light in every breeding cage. So that's also important, I think.
And is that LED light just at the top? Is it just above the bars on the cage? Is that right? I could see from some pictures I looked at before the interview.
It's actually, you know, that the boxes are placed on shelves, and underneath the top shelf we have like one strip of LED light, and it's just glued there, and it gives us enough light in the breeding cage that's beneath. So yeah, it works well.
Fantastic. And with thank you for that description. And as I say, I have the pictures I've seen of them. They look so clever, so innovative. So they look so amazing. And with the lighting, obviously you've talked about having the small LED strip lights for each breeding cage. What lighting do you have in your bird rooms? Are they LEDs, or do you use UV lighting? Or
beside the LED above the breeding cages, we have the room. In the room, we have like the UV light tubes, which are just enough to get everything. But actually, without that, the tubes, they would already have enough light due to the LED strips. But we still have the UV lamps in the middle of the room, tubes on top of the ceiling. Yeah.
Okay, so they're more for you than the birds then?
Yeah, correct.
Fantastic. So, how old were you? How did you find your way into the hobby? Can I ask? Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, we were breeding for. My father started breeding birds when he was a kid, and also I got a microbe from him. So we have always been breeding birds, from canaries to exotics to big parrots. And then my father got divorced. We had to move, and we don't have enough space anymore to have big flights for parrots. So we were looking for a different kind of bird, and so we ended up with budgies in '97. And yeah, we're still there. I was 17 at that moment in time. So yeah.
Excellent. And where did those foundation birds come from? Did you go actively looking for budgies, or did they find you?
In the beginning, you go to the local bird markets around, and you meet some local breeders. I started with birds from William Dirks, from Bert Samples, all breeders that were already in the club at that time. And while going to them, I also got to know the BGC, the Belgian Budgerigar Society, and so I got in contact with other breeders. And then I was a young guy looking on the internet. I ended up with Daniel Lutholf, and in 2003 we went to Daniel for the first time. Since then, we became friends, and always some birds moving around from one place to another at the moment, so we're swapping. But over the time, a lot of birds from Daniel came in. Also I had a very, very good friendship with Harry Hockaday. Very unfortunately that he left the hobby, but Harry came for judging our show. We became very good friends. So also there, Harry got birds from us, and then he brought it in a more English line, and then I brought some of those birds back in mine to have some English birds. I was also visiting Mike Ball, and brought some in from there. So it's a different line. I'm not really a line breeder. I think you know that during my presentation, that I like to look at the bird and and to pair up visually, look at features, compensate features, look at the feather, the growth direction of the feather, and so on. So I'm more that kind of breeder than a pure line breeder, but I think everybody knows that. But the base of the stud, let's say, is more or less, yeah, Daniel Luthoff for many years.
Outstanding. Is Daniel the top? Is he the top man in the world? Would you say at the minute? Is he? I know there are so many good breeders out there. Would you say he's been your biggest influence?
Definitely is. As I already said, I'm going for more than 17 years to visit him, and if I see the quality that he bred every year, and it always seems that he is 1 or 2 steps ahead of the rest. I cannot explain, but it's one of it's a gift, I think, and he can breed the numbers, but also the quality. So for me, definitely is one of the best breeders at the moment, and that ever has been, I think.
Excellent. Well, from what I can gather, his birds have evolved again, haven't they? And as you say, I think that's the top breeder, is to keep, whilst everyone is trying to catch up with you, one step and get one step behind you, you've got to move forward too. So, I need to work that. I need to work out how to do that myself. But no, fantastic. So with the evolution of your birdroom, did you start with the basement birdroom you've got now, or did you kind of start with something smaller and work up to that? Can I ask?
Oh yeah, it evolved over the years. So it started smaller with only breeding at my father's place. So I didn't have my house built at that time. So in the beginning, all the birds were at my father's place. So we only have one breeding room. And then later on, I got my house built, and I already had in mind to put the birds in the basement and make sure that I have a nice space there. And so it grew over the years, and I think we still have plans to change some things. So it will still evolve in the coming years.
It looks like, from say some of the pictures and videos I've seen and other presentations, that it's a really big area you've got. How big is your basement, please? Can you explain?
The breeding place in my home is 6 by 450, and then I have another room where the flights are and the kitchen area is, and that's also about 5 to 4 meters, 5 meters on 4 meters. So it's let's say around 50 square meters, my place. And my father has more or less the same. Mario's place is a little bit smaller. He has one breeding room, and that's about 9 meters on 350 or something like that. And he has a small space next to that, but it's only one place. So it's big enough. You can have some people. You can have some visitors. So we already some buses coming, and we didn't have problem to or pull a ticket to go in the breeding room. So that was not needed.
Well, yeah, I like the fact you say that 9 by 3.5 meters is quite small. That sounds quite big to me, but yeah, if you've got coach loads, then I suppose it is small. Fantastic. And how many breeding cages have you guys got each then, please?
So 36 at my father's place, 36 at Mario's place also, and 57 at my place.
Okay. And when they're at yours, do you use all of them at once? Or do you have a minimum number or maximum number you use? Or
most of the time we put them full. Yeah. So the maximum number of cages that we are breeding with is 93. If my breeding room is active and my father's or Mario's breeding room is active, so maximum 93 and over the year.
Yeah, that's still a lot. That's a good number. And how many birds would you guys expect to breed on average each year? Would you say?
Let's say we breed. It depends on the year, of course. For me, this year I only started breeding myself in February. My father had a surgery on his knee, so I have a busy job. So I come home late from work. So definitely my father need to be around to feed and so on. So we could only start when he recovered from his surgery, and we started in end of February. Oh, sorry, the beginning of February we started, and then yeah, already pulling them out again now. So we're only breeding for let's say 5-6 months. Mario bred a complete year. Let's say he started in July last year, and he stopped in July this year. So, but overall, we were happy with the numbers. This year, we had around 450 chicks, and that's more or less the number that we breed every year. Sometimes it are a bit less, sometimes a bit more. It depends, but that's more or less the number that we achieve every year.
Outstanding. So with your birds, before you kind of move any on, what kind of period do you keep them for and run them on? Is it 6 months, 9 months? How long do you like to hold birds for before you decide what's a keeper and what's not?
Oh, I start already sorting out when they're in the nest box. I already decide actually this is a bird that I will keep. More or less, let's say with the young hens, I only sell very few of the young hens because I know where they're bred up. They're well bred, and I prefer to keep a small hen that is well bred than another one. So most of the times in the hens, I only sort out very few. In the cocks, that's different naturally, but I already decide in the nest if it's going to stay or not. And sometimes it works out well for the one that buys, but that's part of the game, let's say. But most of the time, I know quite well how the bird will develop.
And when you go into the breeding season, what kind of ratios do you like to keep? So if you've got 50 pairs going down, say, how many cocks and hens do you retain?
So for the whole partnership, I'm speaking about the whole partnership because there are some young cocks that I will keep. But let's say we have like 120 cocks that are from babies till adults, let's say, and we have more than 200 hens.
Okay, so I suppose when you've got 3 bird rooms, you've got a bit you can swap around, can't you? If you get a bit short and so right, okay, so it's right, okay, so it's
the birds are already going from one place to another. It's not so that Mario has his birds and my father has his birds. That's not the case in our partnership. If a cock is needed at my father's place, then he go there. And we move 20 hens from Mario to my father if it's needed. So it's yeah.
And how many birds would you buy in a year? Do you look to bring a lot of new blood in each year? I know you said you don't line breed for an outcrosser.
No, the most of birds that we are bringing in actually is a swap with one of our friends. We have, and that's more an in-out cross, let's say. It's most of the time a bird that has some of our own blood in it that we bring back in, or a bird that we have lent to someone that you bring in a chick from that bird or something like that. Of course, when I see a feature that I like, I will not hesitate to bring that in. But to bring really real outcrosses in every year, it's less than 5, definitely.
Okay. And I suppose when you're a top breeder, it's hard to find what you want as well. I suppose at the top of the pyramid,
you have to look into the details. It's not always you don't need to have an extreme or a super quality bird to have a feature that you like. You have to watch through it and make sure that you see what you need. That's important, and that you look at the feather. And sometimes a bird has the feature you want. The only thing he misses is the length of the feather, but that's something that you have to imagine yourself. How will that bird look when the feather is half a centimeter longer? That's
that's obviously key. And do you? I mean, how much time do you spend looking at feathers on your own birds as well? Does you spend a load of time analysing and pulling feathers and looking to see?
That's my only job. My father always said so. It's Mario and my father taking care of the daily routine and the daily feeding and so on. So my job is to look at the details, let's say, and watch at the feathers and see how we're going to pair up and so on. So that's I'm most of the time when I'm with the birds, I'm looking at those kind of things.
Excellent. And you said you obviously when you move the birds around different bird rooms, it gives, you sit a bird room, it's fallow, so you can clear it out, and if there's any mites or bugs hanging around, you can wash them away. But with the birds, does that work? Do you not get French moult now because you do that, or is it the fact that the birds are moving around? Do you need to rest the birds?
Sometimes you can disinfect your breeding room better when there are no birds in it, so that's clear. But with moving the birds around, you also move the bacteria and the viruses around. That's obvious. But very, very strange, actually. Last year, I had some French moult at my place when I stopped. I moved at that time the birds to Mario because it was all needed. The birds were needed in Mario's place, and some of the cocks went in quite short after they stopped at my place. Mario bred, and this year he didn't bred any French moult. So explain that to me. They are the same birds that bred French moult at my place. We have moved them to the other place. They have bred for a whole year without breeding French moult. And in my breeding room, I started in February. I brought in some different birds from different breeders also. As I said, I brought some birds back in that I lent to some friends. And in the second round, I had some French moult already, but it's not, it's not something that always makes sense. Let's say I would have expected that Mario's place to have French moult anywhere, and we didn't have any. So sometimes I cannot explain. And obviously, the food they get is on the three places the same. So it cannot be related to that. The number of hours of light is the same. The air is more or less the same. So yeah, it's difficult to say.
That's amazing. That really is amazing. Just when I think I'm beginning to understand French moult, you tell me that. So that's really confusing.
I was thinking, actually, John, I was thinking exactly the same last year. So it was not logical at all, but I just say how it is.
Yeah, but it is interesting. If you have I know when I've had French moult, if you have you rest the birds and you have a really good deep clean, and 2-3 months later it's gone, isn't it? But the fact they've not stopped, you just move them on. That's incredible. So you've touched on the water there. Do you just give normal tap water to the birds?
Yeah. I know,
fine.
like Harry Hockaday, he gave mineral water to the birds, but I think the tap water that we have in Belgium, actually my kids drink the tap water also, so why would I give mineral water to my birds?
That's logical. And is the water hard in Belgium? What's the kind of hardness?
Depends on the region a little bit.
Okay.
But where we live, it's okay.
Just middle of the road. Okay, Fred. Okay, that's interesting. And with the seed, What seed mixture do you feed, please?
Yeah, I have my own seed mixture that company that it's well known with the pigeon breeders. It's Van Robijs. I don't know if it says something to you, but Van Robijs is the company that actually mixes my bird seed at the moment. Yeah, it's my own mixture that I put together, and the birds eat it very well. So I'm happy about it, and I will stick to it. Yeah.
So you don't feed separate at all? It's just one mix?
Yeah, I have one seed mix, and then I also have, like, I call it the growth and energy mix for the babies. Actually, that is a special mixture that I put together for chicks with some seeds that chicks can peel very easily, and that they actually encourage the chicks to feed by themselves. And then I put in some seeds with high protein in order for their growth and so on. And that's a mixture that I put in separately with the young birds. And
is that the ProLine stuff? Is that your own product?
No. ProLine was I developed the ProLine in the beginning while I was working for that company.
Okay.
But then, I got an argument with the owner of the company, actually, and he wasn't providing the quality anymore that I expected it to be. So, and then I quit it and I stopped it. I stopped doing anything with that. So I think the concept was super. The only thing, the execution from the company was not as it should be.
Okay.
So, but now I'm working a little bit on the same concept with my friend Ine-Peter Terpstra from Terpica, and we are developing more or less a line that will be similar to the ProLine, but where we can guarantee actually our own quality, and that's something that I want to make sure. And there can be no, how should I say, commitments on quality, because we want to feed that to our own birds. So
sure. And if you're putting your name to it as well, you kind of want it to be as you want as you want it to be, don't you, as you like it. So absolutely.
That's clear. Yeah. That's clear.
So we sure with the seeds you feed your young birds, I think that's a problem for a lot of breeders in the UK. Perhaps trying to get fledged youngsters to become fully weaned. What's in that seed mix? Can I ask, please?
There are some very small seeds that fonio paddy. I presume you know the seed.
I know. Yeah, I know fonio paddy. Yes.
Fonio paddy, but also some red panicum and yellow panicum, and some chia seed, some hemp seed. That are all seeds that are very attractive for young birds, and they're easy to peel, and they eat it completely. So it's it works out well. And what I also do is actually I put millet in my nest boxes. So I train the chicks to nibble on the millet sprays before they come out the nest box, and I see that encourages them also to feed by themselves once they are out the nest box. So that's an advice that I would give anybody, that put in some small millet sprays in your nest boxes when they get into their feathers, and they will learn from the mother also how to eat the millet sprays. So I think that's a nice tip that I can give to anybody.
Outstanding. I mean, I pop a bit of fonio paddy into my soft food, but the chia as well. You find that's really useful, do you, for young birds?
Yeah.
Fantastic. What about Japanese millet? Does that go in? Do you use that as well?
That's in my base seed mixture for 30%. So it's a lot.
There's a lot there. Okay.
Yeah. So there is 30% Japanese millet in my base seed mixture, together with 45% of plain cannery. So then you have
Okay.
already 75% of the mixture. So it's
okay, brilliant. Okay, that's okay. Thank you for being so open with that. So with your nest boxes, you've got Austrian nest boxes, is that right?
Yeah, I still have them. Yeah.
And what dimensions are they? I know their nest boxes are normally 25 by 25.
Right, yeah.
How wide are your nest boxes? Do you like? Are they? I know he does 2 or 3 sizes. Do you prefer? Do you have a deep, a wider box or quite a narrow one?
No, I have
normally
the
I think
I have the wide ones.
Okay.
But no particular reason. Actually, that Österringer at that time delivered together with my cages. I didn't ask for a special dimension or something like that, and I was happy with the dimensions they had. So that's okay for me. And I still think they are great. They are really good to work with them. Some people use the plastic drawers in the nest boxes, but I don't like that. I like the hands to chew on some wood and so on. So I still have the wood, the big wooden. How should I say it?
You've got like a wooden drawer inside of you.
Drawer inside, yeah, and then I still prefer that. Some people like the plastic ones. They can put it in the dishwasher, but I still like it to be a little bit more natural.
Okay. And how deep are your inners? Are they the whole height of the nest box, or are they like a half height?
No, they are the whole height of the nest box. But the wooden shelf inside is like 4 centimeters or something like that. So it becomes a little bit higher, but no, it's for the rest, it's the complete height of the nest box. Yeah,
the box. Brilliant.
And once the chicks are getting in the feather, I take out the wooden shelf and I put like a cardboard in it, and it keeps it much better dry at that moment in time. So when you do that, it seems that the nest box is better ventilated, and you don't have any wet nests or anything at that moment anymore.
Okay, and what do you use, like a sawdust or a wood chip in the nest box? What product is that? Can you? Would I know it?
Sawdust, but it's something that I buy from a local company actually. So in the beginning, I have a very, very fine sawdust, and then actually when the chicks get bigger, also the sawdust get bigger. So I have 3 different types. One for eggs and small chicks, one for the medium-sized chicks, and one like very big for when the chicks are really like in the feather already. So
fantastic. Okay, and that's going to be super absorbent then, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, how interesting. Okay, I suppose many of us here are probably using 1 or 2, but that's fascinating. So we've done nest boxes. What about medication? That's always the one I like. That's one of my favourite questions. Do you are there any? I mean, there's some medication here we can't get. Do you have anything in your kind of your medicine cabinet that you keep just for complete emergencies?
Every 2 months we give something in the water for red mites.
Okay.
That the product name is Exalt. I don't know if it's known in the UK, but Exalt is the product that we use. And since we're using that, I can say that I haven't seen any red mite anymore. It's a quite expensive product, but if it can keep your birds free from red mite, I think, it doesn't matter if it costs a little bit more. So we're doing that systematically every 2 months. So 1 day in the water, and then 1 week later, another day, and that's all. And birds are free of red mite so far, since we are doing that. And then besides that, 2 times a year, we are giving a small cure for trichomonasis.
Okay.
I think that's important. It would be stupid to lose birds because of that. It's simple to have like a 5-day schedule twice a year, and then everything runs well. Besides that, there is like a product that I'm still using the first week. The first week when the chicks hatch is it's a product that comes from Holland, and it's called Super Ornithosemix. And we put in when the first chicks hatch until the youngest chicks is a week old. We put them, we give that to the to the parents. And you know, before we had sometimes chicks that start growing, and then after 1 week or 2 weeks they don't grow; they become smaller again.
Okay.
And since we are giving this, we never had that again.
Is that like an antibiotic, Maarten? Or?
That's a kind of antibiotic. They get it the first week when they're fed. Yeah.
Okay. And sorry, that's in the water or your crop needling?
No, that's in the water. Only those pairs with young chicks get that.
Okay. And what? Sorry, remind me, what was it called again, please?
Super Ornithosemix.
Right, okay. Brilliant. Okay, I have to. I'll Google that one later. But that's okay. And again, these routines, these regimes, all three of the partnerships, all three of the partners do the same, do they?
At the same moment. At the same moment, we have a calendar, and it's written on the calendar, and we just say to each other, now, tomorrow, we have to give this, and everybody, everybody is doing that.
Everyone gets on with it. Yeah. Super. Yeah. Okay, so bottom of your cages. This is always one I like. Do you newspapers or sawdust, or what do you use at the bottom of your cages?
Oh, that's I don't know the word in English actually. It's the wooden snippers, like beech. Is it beech?
Okay.
No. Yeah. So the wooden, small wooden snippers that we put in on the bottom. That's all.
Okay.
For the rest, nothing else.
Right. Okay. And so, just jumping on to something completely different now. For novices and intermediate, so one of the questions I always ask the people I've been interviewing, you know, what advice have you got for beginners? So I'm not going to ask you that, or I might ask you that later. But I think the people that seem to we get people into the hobby, they seem to poodle along for a little bit, and then they hit a brick wall. When as they move up through the sections, perhaps they stutter a bit and begin to struggle. So for those sort of novice and intermediate types trying to push on through the hobby, what kind of general advice would you give to those? Would you say go for the big outcross at that point, or you know, what is there any good nuggets of advice you'd have for people in that situation?
Wow. I think something I also mentioned during my presentation is let's start with the beginners, and then I go up to novice and intermediates. So
okay.
When you're a beginner, I think you should take advantage of knowledge of other breeders. It means that you have to do line breeding. Don't go and buy everywhere one bird or two birds. Try to stick to, let's say, 2, maximum 3 breeders where you buy some birds, and then you actually take advantage of the knowledge of that breeder by doing some line breeding and try to develop your stuff. That's something that you should do as a beginner. Once you go up, of course, to the novice and intermediate, it's really important to have a solid stud of birds before trying to move on to like rare varieties and so on. So some good advice that I have there is make sure that the basis of your stud is wide enough before you want to get up. And once that basis is big enough, I think then you can go and look at different features that you're missing, and trying to improve those features. And then you can bring in some outcrosses that bring in those features and try to bring your birds on to a higher level. And that's actually the advice that I have to novices and intermediates, and that's how we did it actually.
Okay, so with so if you bring those out, you talk about bringing the outcrosses in. How do you guys go about using them? So, I mean, forget being novice and intermediate for a second, but you at your level, you bring a good bird in. Would you run it to a number of different hens, and then move the bird on, or does it stay for 2 or 3 seasons?
No.
How would you go about using it, please?
I will have him with 2 or 3 hens, and if I have enough chicks from him, he will go elsewhere again.
Okay.
Only of course, if it really matches well, then he might stick for another year. But otherwise, I will try to breed with him 1 year, and then I continue with his sons or his daughters.
Okay, right. Okay, so it's interesting because some people bring an outcross in and just put it everywhere, but as you say, but others, like yourself, they once the blood's into their line, they're only interested in the offspring. So I'm always fascinated by that. So, is there any particular feature at the minute you're trying to put into your birds? What's next for the at the Heylen stud? What are you really looking out for at the minute? What's the next step?
Something we are focusing on a lot at the moment is position on the perch, how the bird stands on the perch. Because a few years ago we had big birds that were not standing correctly anymore on the perch. So that's something that we have already improved now, and also looking at markings again. So it can be strange that I'm saying that I'm looking at markings, but for instance, for spangles and so on, we noticed that we were losing spots, we were losing markings and so on. So that's something now that we are focusing on again, together with position on the perch, and also the position of the wings. They don't drop their wings besides the body, so that they put the wings nicely on the back of the bird and so on. So that are a few features that we are working on, besides, of course, the faces and the length of the head feathers. But that's something that we have been working on for many years already now. So
I suppose that's the difficulty, and I mean, it's the beauty of the hobby is that you fix one feature and then you try and add another one in, but over time it takes the original set of features that you liked away. So I suppose that's keeping what you've got whilst adding isn't as easy as you'd think. So when you said birds weren't sitting at the correct angle, what were they, more laying across the perch, or too upright? Or
some of them, of course, not all of them, but some of them they were like not standing straight enough. So it's and lying a little bit, bending a little bit too much forward. And I think the showmanship of a bird is very important, and definitely if you want to show birds, that's birds that stands well, that brings it well. He will easily beat a better quality bird that's not standing at all or not showing at all.
Sure, and I mean, we have a bit of an issue in the UK here where, again, some people we're bringing in the more extreme birds, and there's this argument that they are getting too extreme and they're losing their deportment and their style. Is that something that's happened in Belgium?
We are already over that stage, I think. That's something that we were discussing about like 3-4 years ago, and that we were saying, I think we're going too far, and you can see right now that most of the breeders are pulling back a little bit. Of course, you will have extreme birds in the breeding cage, but I think most of the breeders realize that you don't need those birds on a show, and that's something you can see on the shows that were the past few years in Belgium.
How strict are the judges with the more extreme birds at the shows? Are they pretty strict like we are in the UK, or is it different?
It depends. Yeah, they are strict. It's a beauty contest, our show. So that's definitely important. Of course, we want to see quality in a bird. I think that's really important. And therefore, I think you have to make like to draw the line with the young bird shows or the baby shows and the big shows like where you have all the birds. So for me, a baby show is a show where, or a young bird show is a show where you can show quality and where condition is not the first concern. For me personally, I'm only speaking for me personally. Yeah? And then you have the big shows, where you have young birds and any age birds. There, of course, condition is important, and the bird should present and should show and should sit properly and should not be over the top. But for a baby show, young bird show, that's for me. And otherwise, you can only see those birds when you go to someone's shed and go and see his breeding birds. So I think it's important also to give, people the opportunity to show a little bit more. Of course, not the monsters, but a little bit more extreme birds in the young birds and baby shows. But it's my opinion, and I know not everybody shares that opinion, but it's.
But that's the beauty of Budgies. As you say, it is a beauty show, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? So, we all go our own way, don't we, with the birds? So with the more extreme birds, you've got to. I know some people say, I don't want to touch them. I'm not interested. But I think a modern day top budgerigar breeder has got to be using these birds. Is that not correct?
Definitely, yeah. And if you want to have that broad basis of quality in your stud, you will need to continue using them. But I will never pair extreme to extreme or buff to buff. You will always see my pairs will be balanced, and it will be a more extreme cock with a well-bred, smaller typey hen. So that's the way that is my preferred pairing actually. Of course, sometimes you breed bigger hens, but therefore I keep some short feather cocks to put also to those hens. But my preferred pairing is like a big cock with a small hen, a small but well-bred typey hen.
Fine. Okay. That's it. And I suppose those smaller typey hens breed better, don't they, than the bigger buff
Definitely
hens. So I suppose it's all a numbers game as well, isn't it? If it's no good having these huge birds if they don't breed.
If you don't breed the numbers, you won't be able to maintain the quality in your stud.
You're just going backwards. Absolutely. Yeah. So how many shows do you do a year, Maarten? You judge as well, don't you? So
yeah, I actually this year would have been a crazy year for judging. I would be all over the world, and Corona has put a little stop on that. Yeah,
you've had a year. You've had a breather, as they say, this year. It's giving you a chance. Sorry, it's giving you a chance to have a bit of a breather, and to catch your breath again.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, it's postponed to next year, so next year will be quite busy again. But yeah, we are not so we're not showing too much. Definitely, the Belgian national show. If I'm not judging, I will attend, and then sometimes we go to the Dutch show also in Haper, and that's more or less it. We have been twice in Karlsruhe, but it's quite an how should I say, a long trip to bring the birds and to pick up the birds, and I don't have the time to stay there for 3 days or 4 days, so it's it's a bit. So we're not doing. I know you guys. You have so many shows all over the country. I know people that are doing like 10, 15 shows a year or even more. I don't know, but we don't have the opportunity. So what are we doing in Belgium? We have 3 baby shows. So every region is doing a baby show, young bird show. And there is one national show, the national championship, the Belgian championship, that normally is at the end of August. But it's also cancelled this year due to COVID-19.
So and how many sort of overseas judging engagements do you get? Are you inundated with them, or because I know, a lot of the.
I try to not to do more than 5 a year, but also I think there were more than 10 planned this year actually. So it's but I really will stick to those 5 a year. And besides the judging, I also do some presentations. And okay, before COVID-19, I was traveling quite a lot for my job also. So sometimes you like to be at home with your family also sometimes.
Yeah, happy wife, happy life. I think you've got to put them first. Sometimes it can't all be budgies, I'm afraid. So when you do a show, what kind of size is your show team? That's something I'm really interested in. Do you take many, or?
If I go to the Belgian club show, I'm a member of the board, and you bring in some more. It's some of the birds will not be in the perfect condition actually, but you still bring them to have some members. So I say for my own club, I would always bring 30 birds or more to the show, and then if I go to a show abroad, let's say to Holland or to Karlsruhe, it will only be with 15 birds or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And here's a good one for you. Do you think the UK? Do you think we've fallen behind Europe with budgets in recent times? Where do you think the UK sits? And
no,
we won't hold this against you, even if you say
no. I think if we're going back 15 years, then there was a difference between Europe and the UK. There was a difference. At that time, also, I visited the club show in Doncaster. I don't think it's 15 years, but it's 12 years ago or something. And there you could see a few good birds, and then it dropped. But if I see now, the quality is spread all over the country, and I don't think you can speak of pure English blood or pure European blood anymore. I think most of the studs, they are blended. I said perhaps not all of them. Some of them are still more or less pure English, but I think most of the studs, they go to Europe and bring in some outcrosses, and it's the other way around. It's the same actually. So I think we see the quality in the UK is more or less the same than it is in Europe.
So, fine, yeah. Okay. So I think that's interesting to get somebody from abroad's opinion of how they think, what the state of the UK fancy is. I think we always think it's not what it was, but you think the birds you see when you come to Doncaster is a top quality.
Yeah.
Compared to elsewhere.
Yeah, I definitely, and not all of them are showing. If you see, for instance, Mike Ball, the quality of his birds, they are extreme. They are really top class birds. And I think if he would show his let's say, not his best ones, but the third category, he would still do very well on the show, I think. So it's my opinion, and I think there are quite a lot of fanciers also in the UK that has really good birds, but don't show them perhaps. So yeah, or I don't see them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's important for our hobby that some of these we manage to persuade some of these fanciers who have got good birds to come and show them a bit more. I know it's difficult with some people don't like showing, others don't want to stress their birds out by taking them, particularly to the club show for 2 or 3 days. But it would be good to get some of these guys out, I must say, purely just so we can be nosy and look at their birds more than how well they do. So in Belgium, you've got the Trespa show cages. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I won't. Do you think we're mad still using the wooden ones?
Definitely.
In the UK.
Definitely. I don't see any reason why. I know there should be some uniformity in the cages when you're showing. I totally agree. But okay, then you can both let the Trespa cages and the official BS show cage be, and then you would see both of them on the show. And I think, there aren't any better cages around than those Trespa ones. They are so easy to clean. They are so solid and everything. So you don't have to paint them over every 2 or 3 years or anything like that. So there's so many advantages also that I don't see any reason why you shouldn't do it.
I mean, I must say that we're personally. I can only talk from my own view. I'm very keen on them. Have you ever dropped one? They don't break when you drop them, do you? I know someone that was the only reason someone tried to give me recently was, they crack when you drop them, but I don't think they do they? I think they're super resilient.
I dropped some several times already. I have like 40 of them or something like that. So they are, as I said, really solid and so easy to clean.
Again, you've got them for life, haven't you? I think pretty much.
Also there, yeah.
And not having to paint them is a real advantage.
Yeah.
So with the modern day budgie on the kind of extreme wing, if you will, have we taken those extremities as far as we want to take them? I know you said you're trying to rein them back in for show budgets, but we don't really want to have anything more than what we've got, do we now?
We were, I think, if I see to our own birds, that we were at the most extreme point like 4 or 5 years ago, and that we already brought the birds back since then.
I didn't mean Belgium. I just meant
overall. I think, worldwide. I think Daniel is perhaps working on that a little bit longer than that, but it's definitely the trend. And okay, for my own opinion is we just have to make sure that we don't lose too much of the quality, that we're not going back too much, but it still needs to be a show bird, and he needs to be in perfect condition. That's definitely a must.
Well, Daniel seems to have kept the top end of the bird, but stuck a more refined body on it, and I suppose that's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you will need to keep the face and have a short body feather. That's definitely the way forward, but not so easy. Not so easy at all.
Absolutely. So, what's your favourite variety, Maarten? Have you got what do you prefer at the minute? If you had to have a whole shed full of something?
For me personally, it's Lutino. Actually. Okay. So I'm a red eye. I like very much the red eyes. Mario, my partner, he likes the Texas clear bodies. So it's and that's something we start with a few years ago now. Also with and we have quite some now. And my father's preferred variety are the recessive pies and the violet. So it's we have. All three of us has a different.
You got something different
that we like, and besides that, of course, we like a good quality normal, of course. But if I could have a whole chat of Lutinos, I would definitely go for it.
You'd be quite happy. So how many rounds do you take off a pair? Does it matter? I suppose, is there a maximum? Do you say 2 rounds and that's it, or does it depend on the quality and the size of the rounds? And
it depends also if the hen has to feed the chicks herself or not. If she only laying eggs and you're transferring the eggs, or what is the hen doing? If I would say the hen has to raise all the chicks on her own, then I would definitely say 2 rounds is enough. But I would let her lay another round of eggs and transfer them or something like that. So I don't see any problem with that.
And if you're trying to run a cock with several hens, at what point do you remove him? When would it be at the point the hens started to hatch her clutch, or?
Yeah, I think that's the best moment, because I tried it before, and if you remove him too soon, sometimes the hen just let the eggs become cold.
She just vacates, does she?
Yeah, and she go and sit outside the nest box, and she calls after the cock bird again. And if he is in the same room, sometimes you can hear them just calling each other. So it's definitely not. But once she has some chicks to feed, most of the time she's busy with that, and she's not too worried about the cock anymore at that moment in time.
Excellent. So, I mean, another question that usually comes up for breeders here. Did you have birds with flecking? How do you use flecking? Do you avoid it like the plague, or do you try and?
We actually don't have much birds with flecking. I don't like flecking at all. And you would say perhaps you can bring them in the Enos. I have quite some Lutinos and Albinos to work with, but also there I don't like to do that. Why not? Because if you breed some splits and they are all flecked, so you cannot do anything with them in the normals anymore either. So I really would like to keep flecked out as much as you can in total. So you won't see much flecked birds in our breeding. Definitely not.
So you're very strict. If you've got a flecked bird, it doesn't stay for very long.
No, most of the time I sell it.
Yeah, but the thing is with flecking, unfortunately, there's good birds out there that are flecked, but they just, once you get flecking in, it's a devil to get rid of, isn't it? That's the big drawback.
Yeah, and if it's really a good bird, then you can even consider bringing it in the Enos. But even then, it's a bit risky. I can see now. I kept most of the time flecky even out of the Enos, and now there are like split cocks that you can just show. They are good enough to show. So yeah.
I suppose it's just another problem. If you haven't got it, it's just one less thing to worry about. And with feather issues as well, do you? I can only speak from my own experience. I know when I've used birds that are flightless or get a few cysts. Do you use those if you get birds without tails? Just cull them, get rid of them.
Cyst is definitely a no-go. So any birds with lumps will not come in breeding. To be honest, I sometimes breed with a cock that has no tail, but he needs to be perfect for the rest. So I don't want to have too many mistakes in one bird, because then you're bringing that in the whole stud. So if there is there's some noise on the background there.
Yeah, I can. Hang on. Yeah, sorry, a bit of feedback there. Sorry, go on, Maarten, carry on.
Okay, so we might use a super cock with no tail, but then his wings should be complete, and most of the time, all the hens that we use must be complete.
Okay. So right. Okay. So the hens, the hens have got to be well bred. You're not overly fussed if they're not super showbirds, but they have got to be perfect.
Most of the time they have a really good father, and that's for me. I remember Harry Hockaday giving me the pairing cock to cock presentation, and that really was for me an eye opener, and it works perfectly. It's how I pair up. I look at the father of the hen, and if he is good enough, I really know that chicks will be good enough again when paired to the right cock.
You're right. That was a good presentation. That was really insightful, really clever by Harry. It was, I like that as well. And it's, you forget sometimes, don't you, that when you look at a hen, and if it's not super strong, that what it's out of is half the battle. It's so. How can we? I mean, in the UK at the minute, we're having a bit of an argument as to whether we can take the hobby forward in a different direction. And you said at the outset that the hobby's kind of contracting. You're perhaps not getting as many youngsters in Belgium. What ideas have you got personally for kind of growing the hobby in the UK and Belgium? Is there anything we can do differently, would you say?
I think it has to do with the mindset of the young people in Belgium and the UK also. If you see, there are a lot of young people in the Middle East starting with a hobby. So it's just a different mindset. It has to do, I think Belgian and young people in the UK want to do the same. They want to go out. They want to go 3 times a year on vacation. I think that's something, they have a very busy job. I can speak for my own also. Without my father Mario, I would not be able to breed birds. So it's not easy. I don't know. And if you have a good plan on how we can bring the hobby forward, I would really like to know. It's not easy. And we have seen many clubs doing their utmost best to attract new members with all possible, how should I say, gifts and so on. But at the end, it's the mindset of the people. And if someone is really interested and wants really to go for it, he will do it anyway. But I think it's in Western Europe, it will not be easy because of the reason that I already mentioned.
Absolutely. I mean, it is refreshing when you see all around the world how far the hobby is growing. I mean, as you say, in the Far East and Asia, it's just got huge, isn't it? Turkey, the number of fancies in Turkey, Israel. So it's encouraging that the hobby's growing across the world, but less encouraging that it's growing or that it's shrinking here. So hopefully we can try and work a plan or something will change in the future.
It's something I agree, it's
mindset, isn't it? That,
also, what's happening is that the quality in those countries is going up rapidly. I remember 2013 that I judged in Pakistan, and there were 1 or 2 breeders with really good, decent birds. If you see now the number of quality birds that are around already in Pakistan, also there it's huge. It's really huge. And you see that evolving also in other countries, in the Far East, Middle East, Turkey, definitely Turkey. I have a good friend of me in Turkey. He has some really good birds also, Guray Oshkul. And he also, if you see how the birds evolve, it's super. And they will. I think in a few years they will be in the same level as the UK and Belgium.
We'll be going there shopping rather than them coming here,
that's
which is good. Yeah. It's great. I must admit, I looked on Facebook earlier today, and there was somebody who was putting pictures up. I forget the guy's name, and I said to him, "I've not heard of you before, but your birds look amazing. Where are you?" And he had some brilliant budgies. They looked amazing. And I said to him, "Are these yours?" And I thought he might be offended by that, but hopefully he won't be. And he wasn't. But he said, "Yeah, they are mine." And I said, "Oh, they're," I complimented him and said, "They're great. Where are you?" And he said, "I'm Slovakia." And you thought, God, how many Slovakian breeders are there? But obviously the quality there is top draw. So it's so encouraging. So, oh, sorry, I've lost my questions there for a second. So we talked about which fancies have had the biggest influence on you. Can you predict any changes to the budgets in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, I looked back at there was a picture popped up of the Norris's Lutino from the club show in 2011, and I can remember being at that show and helping steward, thinking, this is amazing. They won't breed a budgie better than this. And then they've just got better. I mean, where are we going to be in 5 or 10 years' time, do you think?
Well, they definitely will not go bigger, huh? But it will be on details. I think we will have a bird with a short body feather, with a really good directional, long head feather blow, broad shoulders, and from the neck. I think that's something that coming from the neck. There are already birds like that, but that's something that will be widely spread over many breeders, I think, in the coming years, and it will become more and more difficult to win the club show, I think. You know, there were always breeders that in the past that were on top, and I think what will happen is that in perhaps 5 years there will be 50 breeders that can possibly win the show.
Is that in Belgium or the UK or both, you mean?
Both, yeah.
Everywhere. Okay. Oh, that's okay. Well, hopefully one of them's me. But I doubt it.
Oh, for you, yeah.
The way it's going. So we talked about the lighting you use. So LED and UV tubes. And then when I looked at your video earlier, as I say, my preparation, I saw you go outside, because as you said, all your budgie keeping's indoors under the ground. But you did pop up at one point with your small scissors, and you were cutting your herbs in your herb garden. So yeah. I've got loads of pots with herbs, but you're also at a different level. It's like this garden is just dedicated to the budgies. So what herbs, just for people who haven't seen it, what herbs do you put into your soft food? Can you tell us, please?
Yeah. There is, you know, you don't have always fresh herbs available. So in winter season, we have the dried herbs. There are a mix of 10 different dried herbs. That's also, I can do some publicity now. My friend from Terpica, he sells it there. So you can have a look at that. There are 10 different herbs in that mixture. But when I have fresh herbs, I use, I don't know if if I spell it right in English, but I will try. So it's thyme of thymian.
Thyme, yes.
Thyme, yeah. Oregano.
Yeah. Okay.
Oregano. There is rosemary or.
Rosemary, yes.
Rosemary, mint. And sometimes even just dandelion or something like that, what I have here available. So there are many different herbs that I have in my garden that I use. But the one that the dried is a version with 10 different herbs, all with their own specific feature or there is a reason why I've put them in. So and I really like to work a lot with herbs for the birds, and also sometimes I just cut herbs and I throw them in the flights like this without putting it in the soft food. I just put them in the water a little bit, and then the birds like to go on and turn around in the herbs, and then they eat it. And those fresh herbs are really important, I think.
Mm. Well, I know particularly the rosemary. The budgies go mad for rosemary, don't they? It's it's like a drug for them, isn't it? As you say, they just roll around in it. It makes me laugh when I watch them. I put it in my aviary just for just for entertainment purposes, more than anything else. I noticed in your soft food there was lots of vegetables. I know at that when I watched you, there were the Proline stuff went in, which I assume you've replaced with other egg foods.
Yeah, correct.
Do you put a load of turmeric in as well? Is that there was a lot of turmeric went in? You're a big believer in that. That makes a big difference for your birds, yes?
I think you can Google it. It's all how it's good. It's not only good for birds, but also good for humans. It's a very powerful spice, and I think you can see also that the birds they have I have to be careful with the turmeric before the shows because they get a really yellow. The feathers around the beak get really yellow when they're eating the soft food. So you have to be careful with that. But besides that, I think it's really beneficial for the birds.
Outstanding. And has your soft food mix has that developed over time, or was that recipe been something you've been using for some time?
It has developed. It has developed over time, definitely. It's I have been visiting a lot of breeders. I have been traveling around a lot, and sometimes you find something and you said, that's not bad. I will think about it, and then you add it in your own feeding regime, and you drop something else or something like that. So I like to test some things and to find out. So I think it might even evolve now in the coming years. If I found something that I believe can be beneficial for the birds, I will definitely try and do it.
Outstanding. And so your soft food has got an egg food base, hasn't it?
Yeah, there is. There are actually 3 different commercial egg foods in it at the moment.
Okay.
So it's the Orlux gold pate that I use, but both for exotic birds as for the wild finches, and then the third one is the universeel voer van Slaat, and that's something with a lot of animal protein, a lot of mixed berries in, and so on. So that's the third one that I mix in.
And obviously, as your birds are underground, how important is and obviously a lack of natural light? How important is the vitamin D3 and calcium for you? How do you put that into the birds?
Well, actually, besides a normal grit mixture, we don't give anything additional to calcium at the moment.
Okay.
So it's and I didn't have any hen that had bad eggshell or was egg bound or anything like that. I think that the total feeding regime has enough in it to provide the birds what they need.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And with your egg food, with your soft food, do you feed that daily?
Yeah.
Or is that just during the breeding season?
In the breeding season, they get it daily, definitely. When there are no pairs in breeding, then we only do it twice a week or so, something like that. And then they get also the seed mixture for young birds, because that seed mixture is a little bit too high protein to give at the birds when they are in the breeding cage. They might get aggressive to the chicks, and you have to be a little bit careful by doing that. But so actually, our birds getting a lot of different seeds every day, so they have a lot of choice, picking the right thing, picking what they need.
I think that choice is important, isn't it? Because we forget with the birds that they've all got individual tastes as well, haven't they? It's amazing. I know in some of the other interviews we've sort of discussed, how some birds like some seeds, some like canary, some just like normal millet. They can be really fussy and not. You think they just eat it all, but they tend not to. So I think having a choice is good. One of the questions that one of our viewers has asked is, what's your kind of thoughts on the growth of the hobby in America at the moment? Is that because it seems to be getting bigger there? Have you been across to judge and look over there?
Yeah, I've been there in 2018. I really enjoyed being over there, and it was amazing how people drove 2,000 kilometers to attend the show.
Wow.
We would, people in Belgium are already complaining if they have to drive 80 kilometers to the show. So if you see what the people in America were doing to attend the show, and it's such a big country, of course, there aren't so many breeders around, but apparently it seems that there are some people, newcomers attending. So it seems to be growing there. But yeah, I have only been there once, so and I keep contact with a few of them. But overall, I don't have a clear view how many people there are breeding Dutchies there at the moment. So perhaps you know more, but there are some new ones that I heard, and that they also contacted me, and I was discussing with them, but that is not more than a handful.
Yeah, I don't know more. I don't know more than you, but if anyone wants to invite me over there, I'm happy to come and have a look and find out, so I can report back. But again, it's I always think if America's doing well, then it kind of bodes well for the rest of the world as well. So it'd be good if we can get them to grow the hobby there. But you're quite right. I know people in Australia travel, days at a time to get to their big shows and fly their birds all over the place. And I think the UK fanciers are the same as in Belgium. We complain if the sun's not out in December when we're going to a show, we don't want to go. So but I don't think we know how lucky we have it, having to go only a short distance.
Yeah.
So oh dear. But so with vitamin D, I know we talked about the calcium. Do you supplement with any kind of stuff in the water with vitamin D? And
actually, I did that until last year, and actually this year we haven't done that anymore, and I don't see any difference. So still everything is okay. Hens are laying, chicks are growing well. So I don't see they are missing anything, any vitamin D or any calcium or anything like that. So I think the feeding regime we have, as I already said, I think it's okay and has everything in it. Besides that, we have the lamps with the UVA and UVB light, and at my father's place, there is natural light coming in the flight, so birds are still getting some sunlight, but for the rest, yeah, let's say, as long as it goes well, why should we change it?
Absolutely. And another question that was sent to me just prior to the interview. When obviously you've said you kind of responsible for making most of the pairings. When it comes to disposing of birds, does that fall to you as well? Do you decide what stays and what goes, or do you? Is that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's part.
Fine.
Part
I suppose
of
that would move it.
And they, let's say, we always joke around with the guys in the partnership. So you have 5 chokers. You can put 5 chokers in that are birds that I cannot sell, and the rest I can all sell them. No, it's just if Mario, my father, they have some birds that they like, then they just say, okay, we're going to keep that one. Okay, that's good, then we'll do that. It's a bit. We discuss about birds, of course. When we're together, we see, okay. You see, this is a good baby. We're definitely going to keep that. And if we sell a good bird, then I always ask first to my 2 partners, are you okay with that? That we're going to sell that or not? And that's, I think that works well so far.
And do you try and keep your stud young as well? Because I know some breeders will hold back and use good birds for many years. Do you, whilst others will breed for 2 years and then they're gone and they're using the younger birds, they keep the stud really young. How do you play it? What's your approach?
That's the same with us. I want to keep it young. You only can do that, of course, when when you're having a decent breeding season and you have enough birds that you can change. So now this year, actually, the aim is to get everything out from 2018 and before. So during now the season, cocks. There should be a really good reason that we keep a cock of 2018 for next breeding season. Let's say, and it can be that, of course, everybody has his favorite birds, and there are always a few birds that you say that bird that can die here. So he can, if he lives for 5 years, he will stay for 5 years in the shed. But otherwise, most of the time. When they go in their third year, I will sell most of them.
Okay, and we I know obviously we're monitoring for size, deportment, style, taillessness, flecking. Are you how much care are you taking about the numbers of birds that your birds are reproducing as well? Are you looking to stick with birds that will hatch at least three or four birds in a nest rather than just one or two? Does that bother you too much?
No.
Or you're happy as long as they're fertile?
Yeah, if they are fertile, it's okay. Actually, yeah, it's something I look at. Perhaps is hens that are feather plucking or something like that. I don't like or hens that are actually not clean in the nest, if you know what I mean. They are like shitting their nest box. That are hens that I will never keep. And also, if they even if they breed some chicks, you see that's coming back, feather plucking, and also being dirty in the nest box. That are things that come back. So that's something I want to keep out. But for the rest, if a bird, we sometimes we have some extreme or really big buffy birds. It's not easy to breed for them. So. And if you're going to select out them because you only get one or two chicks of that, I don't think it's a good idea, personally. That's my opinion.
Okay, and you think with feather plucking and keeping a dirty nest box is hereditary? You think they will pass those bad habits on to their youngsters?
I have already seen that, yeah.
Okay, so we just jumping to a completely different subject with I know I've seen you at the RBS Club show. How do our shows compare to others around the world, would you say? Do we do things well, better in some ways and worse in others?
You cannot compare the BS Club show to any other show. For me, it's the atmosphere and that you have on the BS Club show. I don't find it elsewhere. So I really enjoy coming to the BS Club show, definitely. It's also the number of people, the number of visitors. If you go to a show in Belgium, you will have the 30 exhibitors that are there, and if you are lucky, there are 5 other visitors, and that's it. And okay, atmosphere is good, but you cannot compare it to what you guys have in Doncaster. So I really look forward to come, and if I can, I will come every year to the club show.
That's good to know. I think with us here, because we're used to it every year, maybe we're harsh, maybe we're overly critical on it. It should be this, it should be that, and so it's fascinating to hear that you talk about it in such glowing terms. Maybe maybe sometimes we should shut up and just accept we've got a good show. But then maybe maybe we should be more ambitious and try and improve it in some way. But it's good to know that.
I think you guys have the opportunity to do something more because just you have that much visitors, because so many people are coming. So then perhaps it's a missed opportunity to not to do something more than you do right now. It's already top, but perhaps. You can even improve it, and I hope you guys are thinking about even improving it because
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people now, and maybe because we've got our general council elections next year, so I think there's a lot of brainstorming going on whether we can do things differently, which is fine because I think however well you do something, you always want to be looking to take it to the next level. I mean, do you think the venue's big enough? I won't ask you too many questions about it, but do you think we need a bigger venue than Doncaster?
No, I think with the numbers going down of birds, I think the venue has been big enough for, I don't know how long you're already there. You moved from the race course to the dome. I was never at the race course, so it's already many years. And I think in the beginning there were the double of the birds that are right now. So I think the venue is big enough. It's perhaps just how to make it more modern. I don't know, more interactive. That's something that I would suggest. With modern times, how can we do the judging? Can we stream the judging? Can we do all those things that are and for a small club as we have in Belgium, it's very difficult, and we don't have the needed finances to do it, perhaps. But I think a club as the Bajarian Society must have that, and that's perhaps an opportunity going forward from my point of view.
Yeah, I agree. I think the feeling is we're not using technology enough, to really, as you say, streamline and make life easier. And by making life easier, we make for a better weekend for a lot of people. So I think that's something to look at. So so I'm glad to hear that you think that you're thinking along our lines. So if we talked about advice to sort of beginners and novices and intermediates. A lot of the publicity that the hobby gets is always about people who have got bigger bird rooms, maybe a bit more financially well off than others. If you were a small breeder trying to start up with 10 breeding cages in your garden, how would you go about it? Would you look? I know you talked earlier about line breeding and going just to one or two fanciers. Would you look to have one stud cock to put to a lot of hens, or how would you go about starting if you were on a real budget?
Then you would start too narrow. I think if you start with one cock with different hens, if you start with your different pairs from maximum 2 lines, let's say, and then try to combine those lines, and then you can bring the third year, you can bring something in again. That's how I should do. How I would do it now. Of course, I didn't do it like that when I was a beginner. I was a bit stupid also at that time, and I was going when I saw a bird that I liked, I bought it and I tried it. But afterwards, I was thinking about it, and I said we should have done that better, and that's why I give the advice. And I know it's tempting whenever you see a bird and it's for sale and you want to buy it as a beginner, but it doesn't always work out as you think. And therefore I said, do some line breeding until you have a more broader basis, and then go further from there.
Fantastic, excellent. And we're talking about beginner, novice, intermediate, and obviously we removed the beginner level in the UK. How many levels have you got in Belgium? Is it the same as us?
Yeah, it's the same. Beginner, novice, intermediate, champion. Yeah.
And you've still got beginner. So we've lost beginner, but you've still got beginner.
We still got them. Yeah.
You've got it. Yeah. Would you? There's often a complaint about people hanging around in the beginner section for too long.
We have a solution for that. After I have to see, I don't know exactly how many years, but after some years you go automatically to the novice section.
No, we've got that as well. But even if you had people who are winning, do you think we should be stricter to kind of clear out the lower level? Just because I often wonder whether real raw beginners are put off because, I mean, there's always someone with more money and, more luck. But do you think if people do very well, I mean, even if we've got an intermediate, say, as an example, and they win everything, should they be made to go up, do you think, even if it was their first year at that level? Do you think we should be stricter in that regard?
But that's something that if let's say, novice or an intermediate has won the show or has won so many in his section, then he can go up immediately.
Yeah, but should they be made to go up? Is the question? Do you think?
I think we should do that, actually. To keep it fair for the other ones that are in the same section. Yeah.
It's a tough one, isn't it? But
yeah, it's nice to win, and I'm good in the novices, and I can win everything in the novices. But after all, you have to move on, and I think it's important that those people just go up, and of course it will be more difficult in a higher class, but that's how it is. It's everybody wants to go in the Premier League. No, it's
absolutely. Can I ask you? Your logo on your T-shirt.
Yeah,
I love that logo. Who designed it? That was one question I had.
Myself. I did
Fantastic.
that myself. Yeah, together with my friend Mathieu Billy. I don't know if you know him.
No.
We developed that logo ourselves, and it's.
No, I like that.
Actually, we just use it for. We have like a group of 10 guys that travel with each other regularly, and we have all made a polo or shirt with the same logo and our number on the.
You've got your ring number. Okay.
Ring number and a name, and on the back side we have the country, the flag, the Belgian flag. So, and that's when we travel to the UK or anywhere where we travel, we put on those shirts.
So if you go to the pub in England and you get lost, is that how people can find you the next day?
Definitely.
They just say, "I have one of yours here," and hand you one of your party back over.
Actually, it already happened. You just ask for Harry Wangenecht. We lost him, so.
There's always one like that in every group.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm conscious that you're an hour ahead and it's quarter to 11 there. Can I just ask you one last question?
Of course, no problem.
So, and then I promise I'll let you go. With obviously social media has been amazing for the hobby, hasn't it? I mean, it's been super for information sharing and taking the hobby forward. And obviously we've got the exhibition budgerigar forums been going for 10 years now, and that's we've got a number of people from overseas. What are there forums and Facebook groups? Obviously Facebook groups, but are there forums and many Facebook groups in Belgium or that your members are part of?
Yeah, I think that's not only for Belgium. There are international groups where a lot of people are on. I know the exhibition budgerigar group on Facebook, I think, has, I don't know now, but more than 50,000 members so far. So that's for me an eye-opener, right? It means 50,000 people that are interested in breeding veggies. Of course, it is color budgerigars, agaromo, exhibition, everything, of course. But I think I'm in a lot of those groups, and I don't have time to participate actively, actually, myself, because first I have, as I already said, busy job, kids, the birds, and so on. That at the end. You can be the whole day on Facebook and following all those discussions and so on, and also on the forums. But I don't have time for that, actually. But it's a good medium, and I think definitely it's the way forward in the hobby. Again, what we have discussed there, technology, and I think you should use the technology that's available as much as you can in order to promote the hobby. And whenever I can do or I can go anywhere to do a presentation to promote the hobby, to get more people in the hobby, I will definitely do that, because that's something that I like to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Maarten, thank you so much for your time this evening. On behalf of everyone from the Exhibition Budgetary Craft Forum, that's been it's been inspiring. It's been such a good information share. Thank you so very much. I wish you all the best. Good luck with the rest of your breeding season, and we all look forward to seeing you at the club show or a show somewhere soon. But thank you so very much. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.